You see, folks, this is a mystery. It involves intrigue, secret codes, and a treasure possibly buried by a man named Thomas Beale.
Over a century ago, Thomas Jefferson Beale buried a treasure with a map that remains unsolved.
For whatever reason, Beale puts it all in a trunk, leaves it with an innkeeper in Lynchburg, promises to come back in 10 years, heads out west, and is never heard from again.
The Sodder family faced a heartbreaking mystery in 1945 when their home burned down and their children vanished without a trace.
5 children gone missing following a fire that consumed their home, one that was set by an arsonist on Christmas Eve, no less. But did they die in the fire, as the police suggest? Or was it possible that they were kidnapped?
In the cold Ural Mountains of 1959, 9 hikers went missing under unsettling circumstances.
These were 9 experienced backpackers. You're telling me that they all got severe hypothermia at the same time on the same night?
Back in 1518, people in Strasbourg couldn't stop dancing, and no one knows why even today. What could possibly connect these mysterious and strange events? Come along with us as we explore unsolved mysteries that have puzzled investigators for decades. From dark gold to ghost stories. Back in the early 1800s, when people were constantly finding new things and starting to question everything, a story about a man named Thomas Jefferson Beale and his hidden treasure started to spread. This man, Beale, supposedly left a plain-looking box with an innkeeper named Robert Morris in 1822. Years later, this box was opened to reveal messages that were hard to understand. These messages talked about a massive amount of treasure buried somewhere in Bedford County, which today could be worth a ton of money. The little bits of the message they could figure out talked about a lot of gold, silver, and precious stones with an incredible value. But where this treasure was exactly remained a secret, locked in a code that no one has been able to crack. The story gets even more interesting when you learn about Beale's life. After getting away narrowly after a duel, he led a life full of adventures and mysteries in New Orleans. Beale wasn't just any guy. He was known for his remarkable personality and the exciting life he led. His story isn't just about the hidden treasure, but also about the kind of person he was, blending into the stories of early America. Over time, countless treasure hunters, dreaming of finding that wealth, have gone looking for Beale's treasure. They've done everything from digging up graveyards to using the latest in code-breaking techniques. But their intensive search often turned into an obsession, costing them a lot of money and causing problems in their lives. The mystery of Beale's treasure has not only sparked numerous treasure hunts, but also heated debates about whether the Beale papers and the codes in them are even real. The fascination with the story comes as much from its unresolved mysteries as from the warnings it offers to those it attracts. Then there's the matter of the third code, which supposedly lists the names of Beale's partners in this secretive journey. This part of the story remains unsolved, a piece of history that might be lost forever, or perhaps was never meant to be discovered. The Beale ciphers have drawn in many who love the thought of undiscovered wealth and secret messages. They've spent countless hours studying these codes, coming up with all sorts of wild theories. Some even think the key to solving these mysteries might be found in the Declaration of Independence. On a cold Christmas Eve night in 1945, a heart-wrenching story began to unfold in Fayetteville, West Virginia. The Sodder family experienced a devastating fire at their home. George and Jenny Sodder, along with some of their children, managed to escape, but 5 of their 10 children were nowhere to be found. This tragedy sparked a series of events and investigations that would puzzle many for years to come. George Sodder's attempts to rescue his children were hindered by bizarre circumstances. A ladder that was usually by the house had disappeared, and their trucks, which could have been used to help, refused to start for unknown reasons. The fire brought more questions than answers. The phone lines to the house had been cut, not burnt by the fire, suggesting someone might have tampered with them. A ladder that could have aided in the rescue was found thrown over a bank, away from its usual spot, and vehicles that could have been used to raise the alarm or possibly fight the fire wouldn't start. Adding to the mystery were previous threats directed at George Sodder, particularly one from an insurance salesman who ominously warned that the Sodder house would go up in smoke because of George's outspoken criticism of Mussolini. In the fire's aftermath, the expected remains of the 5 missing children were never recovered, leading to speculation that perhaps they hadn't died in the fire. Jenny Sodder's own tests, burning animal bones to see if a fire could completely destroy a body, only fueled this speculation. Sightings of the children after the fire provided a sliver of hope that they might have been kidnapped, possibly due to the family's political stance. The years following the fire saw the Sodder family seeking answers. They hired private detectives and even put up a billboard asking for information about their missing children, but to little avail. A photograph received by Jenny Sodder years later, believed to be one of her missing sons as an adult, added to the mystery but brought them no closer to the truth. Theories abound, from connections to the mafia, retaliation for George Sodder's political beliefs, to other more personal motives. Yet no theory fully explained what happened to the children. As the years passed, the Sodder family's story became more complex, weaving a narrative filled with suspicion, intrigue, and unanswered questions. The house's partial destruction by the fire, the hastily concluded official explanation of an electrical fault, and the mysterious circumstances surrounding the events of that Christmas Eve have led many to believe that the tragedy was not an accident, but an act of foul play. The Sodder family continued to chase leads, driven by the hope that their children had survived the night. A mysterious photograph hinted that one of the children might have grown to adulthood elsewhere, reigniting the family's quest for answers. Yet each clue seemed to deepen the mystery rather than solve it. Theories swirled about the possible involvement of the mafia, political retaliation, and other sinister motives. Yet nothing concrete emerged to shed light on the fate of the Sodder children. On a completely ordinary day, with no hint of the extraordinary events to follow, the L-8 blimp started its journey from Treasure Island. This day, August 16, 1942, was set to become a curious chapter in the tales of war and mysteries that provoke endless speculation. The blimp, intended for a regular patrol mission along the California coastline, was crewed by 2 seasoned pilots. Their task was to look out for enemy subs from the sky, a mission they had undertaken many times before. Yet this particular flight veered off into the realm of the inexplicable, transforming into a story so filled with unanswered questions that it feels more at home in a supernatural thriller than in the historical records of World War II. The morning kicked off with the L-8, an airship that had seen its share of the skies as a commercial blimp before the Navy took it over, heading out on what was planned as a standard patrol for spotting enemy submarines. Under the guidance of Lieutenant Ernest DeWitt, Cody, and Ensign Charles Ellis Adams, both men of commendable flying experience and military service, the blimp took to the air with the day's mission clearly set out. Their patrol route was to take them over various coastal points, but their exploration turned into an enigma that still captures imaginations today. Not long after takeoff, about an hour and a half into their journey, the pilots reported seeing something that looked like an oil slick on the water, a potential sign of a submarine. That message, sent at 7:50 a.m., turned out to be the final word from the blimp's crew. After that, all attempts to contact them went unanswered. For a brief moment, there was a glimmer of hope when it was mistakenly reported that the L-8 had landed safely. However, worry quickly grew as the blimp was later seen floating aimlessly, eventually coming to rest on a street in Daly City, astonishingly intact but eerily quiet, with its door open and no sign of Cody or Adams to be found. When the Navy arrived at the scene, it was like walking into a mystery novel. The blimp had landed softly, almost gently, without its crew. The scene was strangely calm, with the door of the blimp wide open, the radio still working, and all the emergency gear untouched. It was as if the crew had just stepped out for a moment, except they were nowhere to be found. The lack of any struggle or clear signs of what happened left more questions than answers. The investigation that followed seemed to come straight out of a detective story, filled with dead ends and wild theories. Some wondered if an enemy had captured Cody and Adams, or if something more mysterious had spirited them away. The absence of solid clues led to endless speculation, with ideas ranging from possible military scenarios to the far reaches of science fiction. Step into the mystery of a lighthouse where keepers vanished, leaving a puzzle that has intrigued people for over 100 years. The mysteries of Flannan Isles. In December of 1900, a mystery unfolded at the Flannan Isles Lighthouse that remains unsolved to this day. 3 lighthouse keepers named James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur disappeared under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a scene that seemed straight out of a suspenseful novel. When the supply ship Hesperus arrived on December 26th, it discovered the lighthouse empty, with an untouched meal on the table and a stopped clock, indicating the men had vanished about a week earlier. Outside, there was evidence of a violent storm, with damaged equipment and displaced boulders at the west landing, suggesting a great wave might have taken the men. Robert Muirhead led the investigation into their disappearance, theorizing that Ducat and Marshall had gone outside during a storm to secure equipment and were swept away by a massive wave, with MacArthur possibly losing his life in an attempt to save or locate them. This theory was supported by the extensive storm damage found, including railings torn apart and boulders moved, some more than 200 feet above sea level. Yet, the absence of any bodies led to wild speculations and theories over the years, from mythical sea creature attacks to abductions by foreign entities. The discovery inside the lighthouse only added to the mystery, with personal items left behind as if the men had left in a hurry. This scene sparked a century's worth of stories and theories, from natural disasters like a giant wave to more sinister or supernatural explanations for their disappearance. The mystery deepened with tales of a logbook describing intense storms and strange behavior, though such storms weren't reported in the official weather records of the time. These logbook entries have been the subject of debate, with some suggesting they were later additions or exaggerations. In late 1888, London's East End was seized by a series of chilling and exceedingly violent murders that appeared almost theatrical in their cruelty. The mysterious figure behind these crimes, soon dubbed Jack the Ripper by the press, prowled the mist-shrouded streets of Whitechapel, transforming it into a landscape of terror. His targets were 5 women, all earning their livelihoods through prostitution, who were not just killed but horrifically disfigured with a precision that suggested a deeply disturbing intent behind each act. These crimes occurred in one of the poorest districts of London, a place already teeming with hardship and despair. The sequence of murders, starting with Mary Ann Nichols and ending with the particularly gruesome killing of Mary Jane Kelly in her own home, escalated in brutality. The police, armed with only rudimentary investigative tools and techniques, found themselves at a loss, their efforts to apprehend the killer thwarted at every turn by the elusive nature of the evidence and the cunning of the murderer. The press played a significant role in amplifying the horror of the Ripper's deeds, their sensational coverage stirring up a public frenzy. Stories and theories about the murderer's identity abounded, ranging from plausible to outlandishly speculative, ensnaring the imagination of a captivated and horrified audience. This relentless media spectacle cemented Jack the Ripper's notoriety, embedding him in the collective consciousness as a symbol of pure evil. Amidst the panic and fear, the tragic circumstances of the victims shed light on the dire conditions in the East End, highlighting the social injustices faced by the most vulnerable members of society. The Ripper case sparked debates on poverty, crime, and the treatment of women, discussions that have continued to resonate through the years. Despite exhaustive investigations, the true identity of Jack the Ripper has never been uncovered, with suspects ranging across all echelons of society. The enduring mystery of the Ripper's identity has fueled a century-long quest for answers, a testament to the case's grip on the public imagination. The investigation into these murders turned into a complex web of rumors and suspicions, casting a wide net over possible suspects and motives. From royalty to artisans, and even positing the involvement of a woman, The range of theories reflects the perplexing and enigmatic nature of the case. This frenzy of speculation turned the Ripper case into a morbid puzzle, with the public and press alike captivated by each new development or theory, no matter how far-fetched. The speculation regarding the Ripper's skills, whether he was a surgeon or a butcher, added layers of intrigue to an already complex mystery, fueling endless debates and theories. These discussions often veered into the realm of the sensational, overshadowing the tragic reality of the victims' lives and deaths. For centuries, the Shepherd's Monument at Shugborough Hall, engraved with the mystifying code Uosvav surrounded by DM, has drawn the interest of history buffs, language experts, and those who love a good puzzle. This monument, a sculptural echo of Nicolas Poussin's artwork Et in Arcadia Ego, features this perplexing string of letters which, to this day, defies a clear explanation despite numerous attempts to decode it. Theories about what these letters signify have been wide-ranging. They span from Latin abbreviations to complex ciphers, and even notions that it's a secret message or a remembrance. Some theories speculate it might point to the location of the fabled Holy Grail, or it could be a tribute in Latin. One idea posits that the letters stand for a long Latin phrase that translates to a man's homage to his late wife, despite some saying the Latin doesn't quite add up. Another theory interprets it as a biblical phrase, while a different angle suggests it might be tied to funerary traditions of ancient Rome. Then there are the cipher theories. Some think the inscription might use a sophisticated code to spell out Magdalene, or it might give coordinates to a hidden treasure. Others have floated more imaginative ideas, such as the letters forming a secret message about a woman named Alicia, or linking to individuals living in Shugborough in the early 1800s. Despite all these imaginative theories, including connections to grand historical narratives like the Priory of Sion or the quest for the Holy Grail, skepticism persists. Some experts believe the inscription might be a riddle without a solution, designed to spark curiosity rather than be solved. Keith Massey, a linguist and former National Security Agency employee, suggests the inscription translates to a Christian prayer in Latin, pointing to the complexity and wide-ranging interpretations of Uosvav and DM. The diverse interpretations of these letters have led to a myriad of speculative and sometimes fantastical theories.
From secret society codes to messages about the Holy Grail or the Knights Templar's treasures.
The monument has ignited the imagination of many. Some even ventured guesses involving anagrams or steganography, concealing a message in what seems like a random sequence of letters. This fascination with the Shepherd's Monument has attracted figures as notable as Charles Dickens and the grandson of Charles Darwin, all drawn into its mysterious aura. Despite applying both ancient and contemporary techniques of code breaking, the true intent behind this enigmatic sequence of letters remains as shadowy as ever. However, it's worth considering whether the intrigue around the Shugborough inscription speaks more to our love for mysteries than any hidden truths it might conceal. The notion that it could be a mere folly or jest by its creators, Thomas Anson and his friend George Anson, is often overshadowed by more grandiose connections to history's secretive chapters. Follow the mystery of a plane that disappeared, leaving everyone searching for answers. Where did MH370 go? The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 on March 8, 2014, quickly transformed from a typical flight into one of the most perplexing mysteries in modern aviation history. This Boeing 777, set to transport 239 people from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, instead took an unexpected detour into the annals of unsolved aviation tales, sparking worldwide speculation, grief, and numerous conspiracy theories. The flight, which was anticipated to be a standard journey, vanished from radar screens less than an hour after takeoff, marking the beginning of an international saga wrapped in mystery. The co-pilot's casual "good night" message eerily became the last communication with the aircraft, setting the stage for a bewildering puzzle that remains unsolved to this day. What followed was an international search effort of unprecedented scale, resembling the plot of an intense thriller. A vast array of ships, planes and submarines from various countries scoured the Indian Ocean with the latest technological advancements. Yet the ocean refused to give up its secrets, leaving the fate of MH370 and its passengers a haunting question mark. As investigations continued, the search area shifted to the Indian Ocean, following satellite data analysis. Pieces of debris linked to MH370 were eventually found along the coasts of East Africa and nearby islands. Yet these clues did not lead to a conclusive understanding of the aircraft's final moments. Speculation about the disappearance ranged widely, from technical failures and hijacking to more dramatic theories, including political motives or even suggestions of a deliberate act by someone on board. Some proposed that the plane was taken for use in a terrorist act or was accidentally shot down, but none of these theories have been definitively proven. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau and the Malaysian Ministry of Transport's investigations offered potential explanations, like a sudden hypoxia event, rendering everyone on board unconscious, but stopped short of solving the mystery. The case of MH370 underscores the limitations of modern technology and the deep human drive for answers in the face of inexplicable loss. In 1928, the story of Walter Collins disappearing became a tangled tale filled with personal loss, police wrongdoings, and public attention. When Walter went missing, his mother, Christine Collins, had to deal with the pain of not knowing where her son was and the complicated and uncaring response of the Los Angeles Police Department, LAPD. The situation became even more bizarre when a boy in Illinois claimed he was Walter, only to later be identified as Arthur Hutchins Jr., a boy who pretended to be Walter to get to Hollywood. The LAPD's poor handling of the situation, especially their decision to forcibly send Christine to a mental hospital when she said the boy was not her son, highlighted the widespread problem of police misconduct at the time. This part of the story, showing how a mourning mother was treated as a problem and put away, demonstrates how bad the LAPD's corruption was and how it affected people's lives. Further investigation into what happened to Walter led to the discovery of the Wineville chicken coop murders, with Gordon Stewart Northcott being the prime suspect. Even though Northcott's mother first confessed to murdering Walter among others, both she and her son took back their confessions later, making what really happened to Walter a mystery. Christine Collins never stopped looking for her son, keeping hope alive in the face of despair, showing the unbreakable love of a mother. When Christine was presented with the boy and she said he wasn't her son, it could have seemed almost funny if the situation hadn't been so sad. The LAPD, wanting to close a case that had gotten a lot of attention, absurdly suggested Christine should try out the boy as her son. Christine's refusal to go along with this ridiculous idea led to her being locked up in a mental hospital. A story twist that seems too crazy to be real, showing the LAPD cared more about their reputation than finding the truth. Arthur Hutchins Jr., the fake Walter, eventually confessed he lied, wanting to see Hollywood. This showed the LAPD's failure and their willingness to use a grieving mother to save face. The real Walter Collins never came back, and the dark story of the Wineville chicken coop murders adds a grim background to an already sad story. Years later, in 1937, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart moved the mystery from the grim streets of Los Angeles to the wide Pacific Ocean. Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan tried to fly around the world but disappeared near Howland Island. The world was captivated by Earhart's adventurous spirit, but her disappearance led to many theories and much speculation. The story of the lost colony of Roanoke is one filled with as much intrigue as it is drenched in the drama of early America, acting as a fascinating introduction to the many stories of colonial attempts that came after. In the year 1587, a group of English settlers, led by Governor John White, chose to establish their community on an island off the shores of present-day North Carolina. Among these hopeful individuals were White's daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her newborn daughter, Virginia Dare, who was the first English baby born in the New World, a notable fact that remains the most memorable aspect of the colony's story. The narrative shifts to a mix of tragedy and comedy when White, in a decision that would shock any parent today, chose to sail back to England to gather supplies, leaving his daughter and granddaughter behind. His return was delayed for 3 years due to the distractions of a war with Spain, an unimaginable weight in today's world of fast services and quick shipping. When White finally made it back to Roanoke Island in 1590, he found not the thriving settlement he expected, but rather a deserted scene with just the word Croatoan mysteriously carved into a wooden post. This single clue has led to endless speculation and dramatic theories over the centuries. White guessed that the colonists might have moved to live with the Croatan tribe on Hatteras Island, though he never searched for them, supposedly stopped by a storm. The vanishing of the Roanoke colonists has been the basis for many theories, from the believable to the wildly imaginative. Questions arise such as, did they integrate into local Native American tribes, die from diseases, get killed, or did they decide that the tough life in the New World wasn't for them and vanish on purpose? Explore a hiking trip that ended in mystery, with more questions than answers. The year people couldn't stop dancing. Back in the summer of 1518, Strasbourg became the backdrop for an incredibly odd occurrence now known as the Dancing Plague. It all kicked off when one woman, Frau Trophea, started dancing wildly in the streets for no clear reason. What began as a solitary performance rapidly grew into a large-scale event, drawing in around 400 people. This episode of relentless dancing was far from a festive occasion. It stretched over 2 months, resulting in people suffering from exhaustion, strokes, heart attacks, and it's said that about 100 people lost their lives. Trying to make sense of this strange event has puzzled historians and scientists alike. The explanations have spanned from spiritual and supernatural reasons to more scientific ones, like medical and psychological factors. Some have thought about ergot poisoning, which comes from a fungus on damp rye, producing hallucinations similar to those from LSD, as a possible cause. But critics of this theory argue that ergotism's effects on blood circulation would make sustained, energetic dancing impossible. A more widely accepted explanation is that this was a case of stress-induced mass hysteria, or a psychogenic movement disorder, where a group of people all start showing the same odd behavior at the same time. This perspective points to the dancing as an outbreak of stress-induced psychosis, likely sparked by the tough living conditions of the era, which included severe famine and widespread disease. The belief in curses that could force people to dance uncontrollably was common in that region, filled with superstition. This interpretation gains strength from considering the context of Strasbourg in 1518, a time of intense suffering due to poverty, diseases, and lack of food. Under such extreme circumstances, a collective psychological meltdown manifesting as an unstoppable desire to dance seems feasible. Historical records of other instances of dancing mania across medieval Europe support the idea of psychogenic illnesses emerging from societal pressures. Picture the scene, the streets filled with individuals shaking and moving in what might resemble a disastrously executed flash mob, their feet injured and their expressions twisted, not with delight, but with a mysterious force compelling them to keep dancing. In a bizarre effort to solve the problem, the local officials hired musicians to play for the dancers, thinking, oddly enough, that more dancing might put an end to the dancing. The root cause of this peculiar event is as mysterious as the rationale behind the authorities' response. Various theories have circulated, from a collective psychological collapse referred to as mass psychogenic illness, to the possibility of ergot poisoning from contaminated rye bread, or even a type of religious ecstasy or a mass mental breakdown due to the extreme stress and difficulties of life in 16th century Strasbourg. The Dyatlov Pass incident is still one of the biggest mysteries from Soviet times. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers from Ural Polytechnic Institute went hiking in the northern Ural Mountains and never finished their trip. Their bodies were discovered in ways that have led to lots of wild guesses and theories for many years. They were found outside their tent, which looked like it had been cut open from the inside, making people think they ran out quickly in a panic. Near a tree, 2 of the hikers were found with very little clothes on, and signs of a fire were nearby. The others were found scattered between the tent and the tree. What made the situation even stranger were their injuries. Some had really bad injuries, like broken skulls and ribs, as if they had been in a car accident. One of the women, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her eyes and tongue. At first, it was thought they died from getting too cold, but these other injuries made the situation more confusing. For a long time, people have come up with different ideas about what happened, from a snowslide to the military to even a Yeti or UFOs being involved. But recent studies have brought attention back to the snowslide idea, showing it could be a normal yet sad reason for what happened. Researchers Johann Gaum and Alexander M. Puzrin used computer models to show how a specific type of snowslide, called a slab avalanche, might have happened. This could explain why the hikers left their tent so quickly and why some of them had such bad injuries. They even got inspired by the snow in the movie Frozen for their simulations. When the bodies were found, it was a strange and grim scene. Some of the hikers had severe injuries, but there were no signs of a fight or any outside harm. The Soviet government said they died because of an unknown compelling force, a vague reason that only made people more curious. Over time, lots of theories have been suggested, becoming almost like tall tales. Was it a snowslide that caught them unexpectedly? Could it have been a military test gone wrong? Or is there a more mysterious explanation? What keeps people so interested in the Dyatlov Pass incident isn't just the tragic event itself, but our constant search for answers. The Soviet government's secrecy and the lack of clear evidence have turned this story into a mystery that captures our fears, interests, and endless curiosity about the unknown. It has inspired books, documentaries, and even a movie, each adding to the mystery. What really happened in these strange stories? Are there answers out there? Subscribe for more mystery stories and tell us your thoughts in the comments.